This content is personal experience, not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional. Guest views are their own.
Nice to be here with you. This is my second year speaking for the Texas Fruit Festival. Very excited about that. I am a regular speaker for the Woodstock Fruit Festival. Presented for them since the beginning, 11 years with Woodstock, and just went to the vegan wellness retreat in Michigan. How many of you were there? Oh, nice. And that was a wonderful retreat. So these retreats are growing. And I'd like to ask you a question. Maybe are you wondering, what are the benefits of staying with a fruit-based, raw vegan lifestyle for the long term? Is that something that you would like to know more about? What are the long-term benefits?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have been doing this lifestyle for 31 years. My close friends can vouch for it, and they are here. They flew in from New York and Connecticut. So my friend Carolyn is right here. She's known me for over 30 years. And I am being very truthful when I tell you that I have been raw vegan since 1994, and that I have greatly benefited from it. I raised my children raw vegan. My son now lives in Costa Rica and has his own fruit farm. And this is my life. This is my mission. I love this way of living. And there's a reason. I had severe cystic acne for over 25 years. I took every drug there was for cystic acne, and my skin only got worse. Accutane just dried up my skin. Didn't help me at all. Was on prednisone for 6 years. Lots of dramatic effects. I don't even like to call them side effects. They are not side effects. They are dramatic effects. Hurt my eyes, all kinds of really negative things happening in my system, being on prednisone for 6 years. I also had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And my son, 3 years old, had asthma and chronic ear infections. Doctors wanted to give him steroids and also wanted to put tubes in his ears. And I just hit the roof. I was like, enough. And I did a lot of research. For any of you who just heard Don Bennett, I believe the same. You need to question everything, and you need to start doing your own research. Question all of us here who are speaking this weekend. I started doing my research, and I found raw food. This was back in the 90s. And I went to a raw vegan diet. In 1989, I went to a vegan diet after being vegetarian for many, many years. And I did go vegetarian when I was 17, thinking that I was helping the animals. So I did it for moral reasons, not realizing the horrible, horrible cruelty of the dairy industry and the factory farm. And I was eating so much dairy. Cheddar cheese and cheese doodles were my favorite foods. And I used to binge on them every night while I watched TV, not realizing what they were doing to my skin and to my whole body, especially my digestive system. And once I went vegan, let me just backtrack. When I was vegetarian at age 17, there was a benefit in that I started to listen more to my body. Even though I was eating dairy, I gave up all the meat. I was also listening to two inspirations in my life, my father and my grandmother. And in 1921, my grandmother had asthma and emphysema. And she was very sick. The doctors told her, she was in the hospital. They said she only had a few months to live. They didn't have processed food back then, but she had an animal-based diet, and her food, all her vegetables were all cooked. And she was very, very ill with the emphysema, very serious, and she came close to death. And then a little book came out in 1918 called The Mucusless Diet Healing System by a professor, Arnold Ehret. Anybody heard of that book? Oh, cool. Little paperback book, came out in 1918. My grandmother read it in 1921, and it changed her path forever. She was a single mom, and my father was only 4 years old. And she switched to a plant way of living and lived over another 50 years. So it was pretty incredible. I grew up with that healing story, but my mother did not believe that we could get enough, thank you, with a plant way of eating. And so I grew up on all the mainstream processed foods in the 50s and the 60s when that all started. I was on maintenance antibiotics throughout my childhood. By the time I was an adolescent, I had severe cystic acne. And then a little bit later, I had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And I went through many, many years not wanting to change my diet and thinking that my father and my grandmother were completely weird, the way that they were eating. And they were, I thought that they were extreme, and yes, they were, but it was such a good extreme. And I always had it in my mind that they never went to medical doctors, that they always seemed to, even if they had a fall or something, I mean, whatever they did, they seemed to heal quickly. And they didn't eat what everybody else was eating. So they were eating mostly raw, not fully raw, like what I've been doing all these years, but mostly raw. And they had a little bit of steamed vegetables sometimes in the evening. There were days when they didn't eat anything cooked. But I did watch this over the years, and I started to look back and believe that this was the way to live. I saw the way that they were connecting with the other creatures who share this planet with us. And I started to believe that by eating animals, that we are creating a negative karma inside our bodies, and that we are completely out of sync with the creatures who we share this planet with. And Dr. Gabriel Cousens even goes as far to say that when we're eating an animal or any product from an animal, that we are taking in the fear and the soul of that creature. And that really went to my heart. And so fast forward 1989, I started doing more research on dairy, and I realized that what I was eating was causing the same cruelty. That's why I'm talking to you today about my topic, the raw vegan vibe through the years. My original career, I've been coaching since 1998 as a vegan and raw food health coach. And I just did a video on my YouTube channel, Feel Fabulous with Food, on simple versus complex raw vegan. Because I see, there's a lot of recipes out there that have things that are not very healthy. All right, you'll see things like coconut aminos in raw food recipes. So you really need to be very careful these days what kind of recipes you're using. And you'll also see some raw food recipes that have like 25 ingredients in them. Like every food has a different digestion time and different texture. So you don't want to be having all of these combinations. So my talk today is on the raw vegan vibe. And so I looked up Vibe, and it was really in sync with what I believe about raw food and what it does for me. And the first word is energy when you look up Vibe. And the definition is to emanate from or give animation to living beings. And I feel that's what it does for me. It gives me so much animation. I feel euphoric eating this way, eating raw food. It always has me up and feeling fantastic. And so energy, aura, vibration, nature, spirit, light, soul, inner light, world soul, karma. These are the words that make me think of a raw vegan life. And so that's why I called my talk Vibe. I also want to say my past work is as a speech and language pathologist. One reason why I'm really glad to see interpreters here for the hard of hearing and deaf community, because I worked with them for so many years. First, why I love this way of living and what are the benefits, the great benefits that I have received. First of all, I fit into my college clothes. I love that. I love wearing my college clothes. So it saves me a lot of money. Also, the energy. The energy is just through the roof. Most of my friends say to me, how do you have energy to do all that you do in your life? I am just constantly having new projects, and I'm just excited about living on a daily basis. And so many of my friends, I have lost a number of friends to different illnesses, but others have said to me, you know, all the time talking about getting older. And, oh, you know, we're getting older and we have to accept these things. Heck no. Like I feel the same as I did when I was 30. You know, you definitely do not have to take that on. Also, no pains, no medications. Like I said before, I've never had a hot flash. My hormones are working well. When we are eating animal foods are high in saturated fat and cholesterol, and they cause excessive estrogen. We're all told we need more estrogen as we age, that estrogen goes down. But when we're eating animal food, we're getting excess estrogen. And that is connected to the breast cancer, the prostate cancer, and oils as well. So I made a big mistake when I started raw vegan because I was eating raw vegan gourmet and it had a lot of oil in it. And I learned over the years, you got to get that oil out. I don't care what kind of oil it is. It could be hemp seed oil and flaxseed oil. Yes, omega-3s, but you know, eat some hemp seeds, eat some flax seeds, chia, and get a good ratio of omega-3 to 6. If you look at a chart of fruits and the ratio of omega-3 to 6, it is beautiful. It is really, really beautiful. Most of them have ideal ratios, and it should be within 1:1 to 1:4 of omega-3 to omega-6, and no more than that. Don pointed out 1:1. I like that even better, but up to 1:4 and no more. There is room, though, for a little bit of omega-6 outside of that if we're eating mostly fruits, leafy greens, and veggies. So we can have a little bit of nuts and seeds to balance that out. Most of the nuts and seeds are a little higher in omega-6, other than things like chia and flax, but there is a little room for that. But definitely a low-fat, raw vegan approach. So if I'm doing a dressing and I want some walnuts, I'm probably going to put in like a quarter cup in the dressing. That's about it. Sometimes, 1 or 2 tablespoons. Yeah. I mean, all of this happens when you're eating cooked food. White blood cells start to come into the area of the cells and start to actually fight for you, showing that this is foreign material in the body. So, that's why I really believe so strongly in the power of raw living plant foods. So now I want to talk about what are the benefits of this whole living raw nutrition. What are these extreme benefits? Well, the first question I always get is, where do you get your protein? That's always the first question. We don't have to worry about protein. All plant foods have protein. Even a banana is 5% complete protein. So we get plenty of protein just by eating a lot of different plant foods. And the fruits are just, even though they have a lower amount of protein, it all adds up. And the leafy greens have a tremendous amount of protein. So I rotate my greens. I am attracted to some of the bitter greens. Like I love dandelion. I love romaine lettuce. I love a lot of the greens. I love collard greens. And so that's a great way to get protein. And I also love sunflower greens. That's a microgreen. I love sunflower green. And I think it's like 23 grams of protein in a cup. Like there's no worries about getting enough protein on a raw vegan diet. So protein is one. Seeds also have some protein, even though they're more of a fat source. But there's plenty of protein. Water rich. It is not enough to be drinking 8 glasses of water a day and eating all cooked food. Not enough. You need to be getting your water in your food. When you cook your food, it depletes the water content. And our blood and our cellular tissues are about 72% water. They need to constantly be repleted over and over again. They need to be bringing in more water. The fiber is the number one. Like we need all of these whole plant foods, and I believe the fresh is best. So the fiber is so important for proper digestion. Animal food, 0 fiber. Processed food, little to no fiber for proper digestion. So if we want to have good digestion, we need to be eating whole plants, preferably fresh. So that's where you want to get your fiber. As soon as I got off all the dairy as a vegetarian, and when I went to a whole foods diet, even when I was eating cooked and started bringing in the fiber, my digestion started working. And even much, much better when I went raw back in 1994. My digestion, just amazing. And some people tell me, oh, well, my digestion is good. I go 1 time a day. That's constipation to me. So I go like 3 times a day. You want to go after a meal. And like I've worked with people who are going to the bathroom like once every 6 days, having a bowel movement. That is not normal. And when I look at a food diary, I can tell that there is not enough fiber in the diet. That's always key. And then where are we getting all of our nutrients? From fresh fruit. And I do have to say that if we live in a northern climate and we are getting all of our fruit shipped into us, I do believe we really do need to have more leafy greens. I even spoke with author Ann Osborne about this, and she lives in a tropical place where she can get local fruit right there. So That's different than somebody who lives in New York, all right, or lives in Colorado, and in the wintertime, is getting all the fruit shipped in. So like in the summer, I'm eating Colorado peaches, and I'm picking apricots locally and getting local berries. And it's just amazing what I can get in southern Colorado in the warm season. But in the wintertime, we're like, can't even get outside half the time to go to the store. We have so much snow. And, I am definitely going to be bulking up on more greens. I do believe that we are tropical creatures, that we are meant to live in tropical places. And I do a retreat in Costa Rica every January, so I can get down to the tropics. My son it spoke to him, and he moved to Costa Rica. He started his own fruit farm. So, if you're drawn, you should move to a tropical place. That's where we really belong. But we get our nutrition, our vitamins and fruit, vitamins and minerals. So unless you're getting local fruit, you probably are not getting enough minerals. And that's what Ann and I talked about. That if you're not living in a place locally where you're getting your fruit on trees, that you're not getting those minerals. So that's one reason why I eat greens, and I am attracted to leafy greens. Okay, and I already talked about protein, and that we do get protein from our leafy greens. Spinach by calorie is 49% protein. Even the lettuces like romaine, 34% protein. Like, we're not void of protein. And then there's also alkalinity versus acidity. And fruits and leafy greens and vegetables are more alkaline. And our blood as humans is slightly alkaline, so we need to be eating the more alkaline foods. Animal products, meat and dairy, chicken, fish, turkey, it's all acidic. And so we want to stick with the more alkaline. I also want to point out that eating a high fruit diet, fruit is actually a major detoxifier, and it can pull mucus out of your system. So it does the opposite of these other foods like animal food and processed food, which are actually toxifying your system. We want to nourish ourselves, and anything that we take in, we want it to nourish us and not be an anti-nutrient. Do you think that food plays a role in menopause? So, as I told you, for me, I have very high energy level, and I believe it's because of the way that I eat. Hormonally, it's very, very important that women going into peri and then post-menopause, that they eat. It should be an uneventful thing. This should not be any health issues. It should be just like early life. Some people say to me, Karen, what do you think? You're going to live forever? No, I don't think I'm going to live forever, but I want the highest quality of life while I'm here on this planet. And I want to live as long as I can. I have grandchildren. I want to be there for them. So there was a study done at Johns Hopkins University, and what they looked at was hot flashes. And they found that westernized women who were eating higher fat because of all the animal food, and they were eating lower in fiber. Okay, they were eating 4 times as much fat as traditional Asian women who they looked at. Asian women who were living a plant-based lifestyle. And what they found in that study is that 10% of women in China have hot flashes. 17% of women in Japan had hot flashes. And 75% of women over age 50 in the United States have hot flashes. So that was a pretty clear study, and it was based on food consumption, what they're eating. So a high-fat, low-fiber diet causes a rise in estrogen levels. Animal-based meals affect hormone levels rapidly and contribute to all the menopausal problems that we see and diseases in all the Western countries. And we can see that across the world, that the countries who have the highest rates of osteoporosis, the United States, Switzerland, Scandinavia, they have the highest dairy consumption. So when I was growing up, I was told in school that dairy gives you calcium and that it helps you with your bones. I learned later on that's not true at all. Get your calcium from figs, and figs are an excellent overall mineral content fruit. I'm like loving all the figs right now. I like devour them. I'll have like a huge meal of just figs.
What about if they're dry?
I would rehydrate them, like in the winter. If you're not getting like fresh figs and you want figs, you can take dried organic and rehydrate. But oranges, you know, talking about calcium, oranges are a good source. Leafy greens are an excellent source of calcium and magnesium. And sunlight. The vitamin D from sunlight helps calcium absorption via the kidneys. So definitely getting out into the sun, or you know, one of these phototherapy lamps like the Spurdy that Dawn was recommending. I also want to talk about it. It's not only the food. The food is a huge part of it. I'm not going to take that away. But when I first started as a raw vegan and we had all these benefits happen, I did make mistakes. Like I was too high fat at the beginning. I listened to a lot of misinformation out there, even misinformation about that, like we don't have to brush our teeth anymore when we go raw vegan. You don't have to brush your teeth. So, you know, kids don't necessarily like to brush their teeth. So I wasn't like asking them to practice dental hygiene. We ended up in big trouble because of that. So please question misinformation. So one of the things that doesn't have to do with food that is vitally important is finding your passion. It is so important as you go through the years to have a passion. And so I have many passions, and I believe that they keep me really loving life, and they add to my health. And of course, one of them is the work that I do as a raw vegan coach. And also I have a vegan and raw food coach certification. I'm offering a huge discount on this course, and I have the flyers over there on the side. I also have a sign-up sheet for my free Super Healthy Raw newsletter. If you're interested in that, you can put your name and your email in print. And I have books that I've created. So my passion goes into my mission. And my mission is to educate people about this wonderful, miraculous way of living. Another passion that I have is my family. I have 3 grandchildren now. And just last week, my little 3-year-old granddaughter, we were doing an art project together. And she looked up at me and she calls me Mimi. And she said, "Mimi, I love being with you." And like, I'm telling you, my health skyrocketed just from hearing that. So having people in your life, not isolating yourself, and by coming to a conference like this, you are with people who all care about their health and their longevity. So be with these like-minded people. These are the people who you want to engage with. Also, my friends. I put a lot of effort into my friends, and every year I host a big party the Sunday after Thanksgiving. I get moved in a very upset way with the turkey at Thanksgiving. And so I like to have my Thanksgiving celebration the following weekend. And so I've had up to 122 people in my home for that Thanksgiving. And this Thanksgiving, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, will be the 34th year of the Thanksgiving. If you are in New Jersey at the time, I'm living in Colorado now, but I'm still going back and forth to New Jersey. If you're in New Jersey around that time, let me know and come and join us for Thanksgiving. It's a really beautiful celebration. We have a gratitude circle, and we are also thanking the life of the turkey, a beautiful life at a time when millions of turkeys are being slaughtered. And we eat all raw vegan food. It's a big, huge potluck at that event. And so what I was saying about having like-minded people in your life, having friends who think the way that you do, who you can get together with and who give you support. And I was saying, like, my friends Carolyn and Lori and Gail and Debbie and Doug, like, they all came down here to support me. Like, we just, it's just great when you have friends who are there for you. So that's a passion. That's also a passion. Okay. So exercise. Bones that have nothing to do, they get weak really fast. So you want to make sure that you are moving on a daily basis. I used to think it was all about raw food. I didn't think that I needed to move. I could just sit and work on the computer and teach my raw food classes. This was at the beginning, back in the 90s. And I learned real fast that you need to move. You definitely need to move. Exercise is key. And I am an avid hiker. I go hiking every weekend. I actually had a bad fall last Saturday. I don't know if you can see my black and blue, but I really also believe that this way of eating provides really good healing. And I didn't think I was going to be able to come to this festival. I just told Dave, I had a bad hiking accident last Saturday. And I'm amazed that most of the black and blue was already gone. It was like clear across the bottom of my chin. And I had a huge bump. And it has gone down it's 1 week today. And I really think it has to do with lifestyle. Even that kind of healing. So exercise is one. And after significantly increasing the raw, vegan, whole foods in my diet and in those people who I've worked with since 1998, these are some of the results. And it's a small amount. I could write lists of all of the major improvements. Is increased energy, increased physical stamina, resistance to illness, increased attention span, improved digestion, desired weight loss, improved sleep. And I also do want to say that when I stopped eating at night And I had insomnia for many years. That's one other thing that I had. And the doctors always told me it was genetic because my mother had insomnia. Well, guess what? My mother also ate at night. And once I stopped eating into the later hours and had at least 3 to 4 hours without food coming in before going to sleep, no more insomnia. Sleep like a baby. So I think timing and how your body works during the day, we are not meant to be eating at night because then we're digesting, and sleep is for re-energizing and healing, and that sleep is of utmost importance. So some tips for healthy living that I can give you for yourself and for families as well. Growing your own food. And if you're in a situation where you can't grow your own food, then I like to sprout on my kitchen counter. And I do grow broccoli sprouts. I do grow mung bean sprouts. I have felt that I need just a little bit more protein as I'm getting older, but that hasn't really been an issue. I'm eating some sunflower greens and some sprouts. And then also supporting local organic farmers. And I've talked to the farmers at our farmers markets, and one of my questions is, do you rotate your fields? There's one farmer I know, he's very aware that his soil is going to be a lot healthier if he rotates his fields. Now, some farmers can't do that, but he is able to plant on different fields and rotate them. And so his crops are going to be much more nutrient dense because of the better soil. Getting out into nature and getting your families and friends out into nature, because being out in nature is going to connect with eating natural nature's foods. Also, preparing food together with your friends and your family. When I had my kids with me at home, they would be at ages 5 and 3 up at the counter with me, helping me chop the fruits and vegetables. If we were making a salad, they would make it. We'd make a dressing together. I helped them create a little menu, and they became the chefs in our house. And we paid them with play money at the beginning, and as they got older, we gave them real money because it was so important to keep them on track with healthy living when they were getting all of this input from kids saying, oh, you're not allowed to eat this and you're not allowed to eat that. So I wanted my kids to really love fruits and vegetables because there were so many outside exposures. Also, for kids who don't eat much in the way of leafy greens and salads usually, I did find for my children that green smoothies were a really good way to get the mineral-rich leafy greens in. So we did make green smoothies. And in my house, I have fruits. When you walk into the kitchen area where we all congregate, bowls of fruit, bowls and plates of fruit all over the kitchen counters and the area where we walk into and socialize. And just getting out the animal food out of the refrigerator, having the greens and the vegetables in the refrigerator and keeping all your beautiful fruit, so colorful, everything. And that's another thing that attracts me so much is the color of the foods. These vibrant colors is what we're supposed to be eating. Once they're cooked, a lot of the color is gone. So I love the color in the raw foods, all the fruits and veggies. So I want to end my part of the talk by saying that, there are all of these health challenges around us. I remember back in the 50s, I hardly ever met anyone with cancer. And today, I know so many people who have been diagnosed with cancer. Same with autism, like I told you the current statistics. Same with diabetes. Same with childhood leukemia. It's like at an all-time high. Asthma and allergies. Like never before, people are sick. But I truly believe that if we practice this lifestyle, this really healthy, fruit-based, raw vegan lifestyle, keeping it lower in fat, that we can have a really vibrant life. And we have the remote control in our hands. So that's the end of my talk today. And I would just like to let you know that I have my email sign-up sheet here for my free newsletter. If you'd like to stay in touch, hear about my events. I have my upcoming Love Raw Food and Yoga Retreat in Costa Rica this January. And I'm super excited about that. We get away into this beautiful, beautiful place. And it's my 10-year anniversary going to Costa Rica. So I'm really proud of that. It depends on the accommodation, so you can talk to me if you have any questions.
Well, you mentioned collard greens and stuff like that. Do you steam those?
I don't.
No?
I don't steam them. I eat them raw.
Raw, okay.
Yeah.
What's the books online? Is there shipping? Do we have to pay shipping?
If you tell me if there's no books left and you want to order one, I will send it to you with free shipping. If there's no books left here.
Oh, yeah, it was just about research on how to pay. She shouldn't have been going. You don't have, yeah, that.
Right. I have PayPal, Venmo. I have Stripe also, but I would have to send you an invoice. So, yeah. And do you have a question?
Do you travel and speak around the country?
I do.
Like you do.
Yeah, the question was if I travel. I do travel.
Have you ever been to Summerfest?
I have not spoken there. No, I speak at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. I speak at the Vegan Wellness Retreat. I've spoken at many veg fests. I have not spoken at that one. You can suggest it to them. So superhealthychildren.com and feelfabulous.with.food.com are my two websites. My books are on there. My contact page, anybody is looking for vegan and raw food coaching or to join my vegan coach certification. I have flyers here and I have a big discount if you become passionate, so passionate that you want to help others. We meet every week live on Zoom. And there's also modules, and you receive a certificate of completion at the end of the program. And I've had coaching students who have gone on to have health retreats and coach individually and in groups, both online and offline, and make a good extra income. This is a growing area. It's not like when I started in the mid-90s. It is growing, and it's all over Facebook and Instagram, and it's not hard to find raw. So if this is something that speaks to you, certainly take one of my flyers and get in touch with me.
Karen, have you ever heard of anybody with their hearing, getting improvement with their hearing? I mean, I'm going to just use myself as a guinea pig. Once I'm more into 100, I'm not going to
Yeah.
once I go more, I mean, it's not going to always kind of taking polls and asking people.
Yeah.
Ever heard anybody?
I have not with hearing. I have with vision, and my vision has improved a bit. I've been wearing glasses since I'm 7 years old. And when I did go wrong, my vision started to improve. And I've been doing some natural vision improvement classes that have also helped with my vision, but something I'm still working with because I've been wearing glasses since I'm like in second grade. Because they put glasses on me because I couldn't see from the back of the room and I was squinting. And once you put glasses on somebody, their eyes get worse and worse and worse.
I'm actually doing the base method right now, and I cut my prescription in half. It's taken me like a year and a half. I got it like another probably year and a half ago, but I've noticed that when I do the incremental, reducing my prescription 0.25 every month, that since I've been more raw, high raw, I've been like, wow, I've been able to do it faster maybe, and I didn't really make the correlation until someone else talked about their vision getting better when they were raw, and I'm like, hey, I think it's been helping, yeah.
Definitely. And there are foods that are really good for the eyes. Kiwi is excellent. Lettuce is excellent. There's a lot of raw foods that are really, really good for the vision. And just a raw food lifestyle is excellent for the eyes. Like I have noticed a difference in my vision, even though I still have to focus on it. I don't like to say I still have to work on it because a lot of relieving the tension in the eyes is relaxing the eyes.
How would you know if some of raw foods are not good for you, like tomatoes? Like Don was saying, he can't eat tomatoes or red peppers, and I love them. I mean, I think they're great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, I eat some tomato. I eat I eat the heirloom variety, but I have minimized once I learned a lot more about nightshades and because I have worked with people with arthritis, and I do take them off of those things. I haven't had an issue with joint pains while eating something like heirloom tomatoes, but I don't eat them, I don't eat a huge amount. And in the winter, I do not eat tomatoes because I don't eat the tomatoes that come from Mexico that are like sponges.
Can you explain what you mean by heirloom?
There's an heirloom variety. It's like the mother plant of the tomato, and they're called heirloom tomatoes. So I get them at the farmer's market. They're grown locally from local organic farmers. When the season's done, I'm not eating tomatoes in the wintertime.
What do you mean they're the mother of it?
Yeah, it's the plant itself. Like when you get these tomatoes from Mexico, I mean, they're very fabricated. These heirloom tomatoes are, I don't know, they're just healthier.
You can
Like,
take
yeah.
seeds from heirloom tomatoes that we plant.
Yeah.
They're less modified, kind of like ancient grains or whatever,
Right.
where it's more back to the original.
It's the original plant of the tomato.
Not hybridized.
You also have to use your instinct when you see something. Like when I go to the stores in the winter, I'll go to a health food store and see these tomatoes. They don't look like they have any life. So I don't want that. I don't want to take that in. But I go to the farmer's market, and a couple of these farmers, they grow tomatoes, and they're also using things like the rock dust to grow really good plants with extra nutrition. And I see these heirloom tomatoes, and I'm attracted to them, so I do eat them. I don't have any arthritic problems from eating them. Anybody else? Okay.
Like where I go to shop sometimes at Whole Foods, they have organic tomatoes and then they have other tomatoes, and I think they're coated with some kind of thing, substance that has been put on them to make them look like they're real. Isn't that?
That's why when I
similar
see
to-
those tomatoes in the store, my body tells me right away not to eat those.
they have a chemical on them.
I believe a lot of
I
them
think it's
do.
acrylamide or something similar.
Yeah, there's all kinds of chemicals used these days. I try to go as much as possible. Like I had a garden for a long time, and then the animals got into the garden, and so we tried doing all kinds of things to get the animals out, and we couldn't. And so I go mostly to local organic farmers who I know, and I know what they're doing, and I trust them. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you.